Good morning, friends. It is Friday, August 18th, and we are kicking off the morning with checking on our sauce. And so last night when I left the video, I had turned the burner on to about a medium high heat and left it for probably about 30 minutes. Let it kind of simmer, very low boil, and then I just turned the burner off and then I put a lid on top. Now, before I put the lid on top, I looked and it had gotten pretty thick, much thicker than it was previously. And so we're going to see it this morning because I can see a lot of water has come up to the lid, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to take the lid off carefully because I don't want that water going right back into the sauce. All right, I've got a towel over here so you can see the water drip off just a little bit. Look how much thicker that is. Oh my goodness. It's beautiful. And it's probably reduced by a good 3/4. I mean, it's really so much thicker and it looks gorgeous. So at this point, once you're satisfied with the desired texture, consistency, thickness of your sauce, you can season it or not. Now, I have not added any salt, any herbs, nothing. This is strictly tomato sauce. I was trying to make a marinara. That was my original goal. And to me, that just meant adding some salt and herbs. Eventually, I would add some onion and garlic that are sauteed and olive oil and probably like blended in. But today I'm just gonna leave it as the sauce because from here, after you decide to season or not season, you have options on how you want to preserve this or store this. This can be water bath canned. I need you to look up this yourself, but I believe for water bath or steam canning, it's anywhere between 45 to 50 minutes, depending upon pints or quarts. You do need to add either lemon juice or citric acid to each jar. You can pressure can for anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes, I think. But again, I would still add citric acid. It's just what I do. And or you can freeze it. You can jar it up, put it in the fridge if you plan on using it within the next few days, or you can actually freeze it and tend to it later. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna jar this up. I'm thinking it might be a little over 2 quarts. And I am actually going to put the jars in the fridge and eventually they are gonna go in the freezer. The reason I'm doing that is because when I can my sauce, and I will make this into some sort of flavored sauce, I want to can 7 quarts in my pressure canner at a time. I'm really not interested in getting the pressure canner out today to just do 2, maybe 3 quarts of sauce. I really want to kind of get as many in my canner as possible, which is 7 quarts that it can hold. And then I just do it all at once. So I am going to jar it up, fridge, freezer, and then when I do a big sauce making day, I'll get everything canned up at the same time. So I got 3 quart jars out, just in case there is 3 quarts worth. When you are freezing, you want to be very careful of your headspace. I'm leaving quite a bit here, probably about 2 inches, because when you're freezing, the liquid expands, and if you have a lid on and there's not enough room, your jar will crack. So make sure if you're freezing, plenty of headspace. Now that the tomato sauce is in the fridge, I'm gonna get that really nice and cool, and then I'll put it in the freezer. I promise we'll come back to that and jar it all up and probably season it at least with some salt and some herbs, and then we'll pressure can it when I have more to do. In the meantime, let's get going on today's project. So the first thing I did this morning, as soon as I had gotten up and the kids were eating their breakfast, I went ahead and got one more quart garlic fermented pickles, and I did add some red hot pepper in here to make them just have a little bit of a kick, as well as a dill flour, a dill head flour. But these were the last of the cucumbers I had in the refrigerator. I wanted to get them taken care of because I am headed to our little farm today, and I know I'm going to be getting more cucumbers. So got those taken care of this morning, and now we're gonna make some raspberry jam. So last night I pulled out approximately 8 cups of organic frozen raspberries. I bought these in bulk from Azure Standard earlier this spring, and my whole goal was to turn these into raspberry jam. So I've got my jars, I've got my sugar, and we are going to be using Pomona's pectin for our jam today. So usually when you are making jam, a lot of people will use the Ball brand of pectin, and there's nothing wrong with it. So I'm gonna kind of give you the pros and the cons of the Ball pectin and the Pomona pectin, and that way you can choose what works for you. Let's start with the Ball pectin. Pro, it's so easy. And you're guaranteed to get that set, right? That gel kind of texture and consistency of jam that you're looking for, and it sets really beautifully. And I don't mean just the Ball jam, right? Probably any kind of commercial pectin. The con is that you typically have to use a lot of sugar. Even in the Ball books within the recipes, it requires more sugar. And I think if you were to lower the sugar, you could try that. I've never actually tried that. So that's, to me, the pro is it works. You know it's gonna set and it's gonna be beautiful. The con is you typically have to add more sweetener. Pomona's pectin. The pro is that you do not have to add as much sweetener. It almost calls for probably half the amount of sugar or maple syrup or honey, which you have that option with these, compared to the typical recipes. So it halves the whole sugar content of the recipe. The con is that you may not get that gorgeous jam in the jar that you're looking for. Sometimes when I do the Pomona, I see some foam at the top of the jar. Sometimes all the fruit kind of settles to the top, and then there's just the jelly, you could say, at the bottom. So I've had, you know, mixed results with how pretty it looks, but it still tastes good. I don't have any commercial pectin in the kitchen right now for no other reason than I just don't have it and I need to purchase them. But I do have Pomona's, and so I'm going to use this today, and I'm gonna follow their recipe on the stovetop, and then we're gonna get these into the jars and steam and can the raspberry jam. Now, what is so great about this is that it's such simple ingredients. So the recipe is just the raspberries, sugar, the pectin, and what they call our calcium water. So in each box of Pomona pectin, you get a little packet of the pectin, a packet that looks like this, which actually says on the outside calcium, and then you get the directions. And so the first thing you do is prepare the calcium water. It's gonna call for a half a teaspoon of calcium powder to a half a cup of water in a jar, shake it, set it aside. You're not gonna use that whole half a cup in your recipe, so then you can put it in the fridge and use it later. And half a teaspoon, well, there's more than half a teaspoon in here as well. So you can actually kind of seal this back up with just a piece of tape, put it back in your pantry, and use this later also. I sometimes feel like the ratio of pectin to calcium in the package is not equal. I always run out of the pectin first. Okay, but that's the first thing we need to do is make our calcium water, and then we're gonna go to the stove and get our raspberries and sugar and everything heated up. So I already have a half a cup of water measured out. Just need my half teaspoon calcium powder. So the Pomona, I guess you could say this is a con for the Pomona, right? It just requires this extra step. It's really not a big deal. but it is meant to be a much more natural pectin. It doesn't contain sugar in it. It doesn't contain preservatives, where a lot of those other commercial pectins do. Okay, we're going to shake this up. And that's it for that. So now let's move on to our recipe. So we're going to put our raspberries in my saucepan, and I'm just going to use my potato masher to kind of break them up a bit. Whenever I'm making jam, and I don't make a whole lot, but when I do, I often find a really good hack and shortcut is to use previously frozen fruit, whether it be strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, you name it. And the reason is because when you're thawing it overnight, it's already kind of breaking down its structure and releasing some of those juices, and it just makes the next day's steps that much faster and easier. When I'm working with fresh fruit, it just seems to go a little bit longer because it requires more work to really break down the structure of the fruit. So even if you are in the midst of strawberry season and you go strawberry picking and you want to make jam, certainly by all means, I'm not going to tell you no, but you may cut yourself some work and some time if you freeze some first and then make jam with it when they've thawed. Okay, now that everything is mixed up, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of calcium water. So it was looking for about 8 cups of fresh raspberries or about 4 cups of mash. This may be a little bit more than 4, but we're going to go with the recipe the way it's written. So 2 teaspoons. Now the rest of this calcium water goes in the refrigerator. I have my burner on a medium heat. So while that is warming up, we want to bring that to a slow boil. I'm going to add in or get my sugar and my pectin mixed up separately. And I'm going to be doing 2 cups of sugar. You can do anywhere between a half to a cup of honey, or 3/4 to 2 cups of sugar. I'm just going to go with the 2 cups. Now the ball recipe for this called, I think, for 4 or 6 cups. So this is certainly much less. Two teaspoons of pectin. This is the pectin packet. 2 teaspoons pectin, mixing it in with your sugar. All right, I turned my heat up a little bit to about medium-high, 7 on my stove, because I really want to get this to a full boil. Once we get there, we're going to pour in our sugar pectin mixture, really get the sugar dissolved, get everything incorporated, and then we can start ladling it into our jars. And I am going to be steam canning this today. So once this is dissolved, I'm going to be moving this off the burner and getting my steam canner on. Okay, it's been boiling for a few minutes now. I'm going to add in our sugar pectin mixture and just really get that sugar dissolved. The color is so beautiful of these raspberries, and it smells amazing. I always make strawberry jam. This is actually the first time I'm making a raspberry jam. All right, this feels very well incorporated. I am gonna take this off the stove and get the steam canner on. Have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.